This is game one from our Dreamhack tournament. Basically, we landed Coral and we got 2 free kills at Shark, which is our Surge. 62 alive in a game one, which is very, very, very dead. So we're very lucky, but we ended up kind of choking this game. So I'll show you guys what we did wrong and what we could have done better. If there's ever 2 teams at Shark and you're landing Coral in a grand finals format, especially in a game one, it's almost stupid to not push Shark. You should definitely push Shark game one. If you have the opportunity to, like if there's 2 teams. If it's 1 team, let them be and get your Surge normally. But it's just know that a lot of teams are going to be struggling for Surge in game one, and there's a whole strat to play around getting Surge in game one that I can go through in another video. But basically, like, Surge in game one of every single grand finals is very, very high typically. And like, you know, the easiest way to counter that obviously is to play off of getting kills off spawn. So you know, people who are contested at Pleasant get kills, at, you know, wherever, Salty, everyone's fighting basically. And that's what you see here when there's 62 players alive going in the 3rd zone. 62 players alive is extremely dead. So basically, like, this is pretty basic. All we're doing here, I don't really have much of a shadow play here, but basically we rotated in from Coral after getting kills, kind of playing edge, getting reformed because we needed mats. We went through Sweaty, and then we took this old base here because this team that based up here ended up going center earlier. So this is obviously not all of our edits, as you'll see here in a sec. So zone pops, and yeah, as you can see, this is not our base. So zone pops. I mark zone so you can see how far it goes. This team ends up going earlier, and we just regular bounce a shockwave. We actually messed it up, but we're good. So we regular bounce a shockwave. For the bouncer shockwave, there's really not much. Just be careful where you place the shockwave. That's really like your biggest thing. So obviously, like, if you, as you can see here in the split frame, if I can get the pause just right, you'll see that's like, it's kind of best, it's in the best position for both of us basically. Like, you don't want to throw it too far to the right because you won't get it. You don't want to throw it too far on him because you'll go the opposite way. You want to make sure that your placing is pretty centered, which is pretty normal. So yeah, we end up getting it like almost a perfect bouncer shockwave. I'm just starting to ENAS, work my way through. And then here, we're not in zone here, obviously, but we want to play low ground because we do have a rift fish. Blake's holding it, you can't tell, but yeah, we do want to play low ground here. And so the freest way to do this is to just shoot through. And this is very, very sketchy. This could have gone really bad. But if you hear the comms here, I told him where I wanted to go. I blocked off our back there. I went up and I built the base. Very sketchy. He ends up getting hit, I think. We get server focus because of this. So one thing that Blake did wrong here, or like not necessarily wrong, but definitely not the best play, is to build out a brick, because brick's just like a spammable, like, people are just gonna spam that shit. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you gotta build in metal and half no matter what. Like, you cannot be in brick, especially when you don't need surge like this. So everyone, it's mostly like, I would say it's mostly like a game one issue, or a game one thing to be watching for. Like, you're not going to need to be in full built metal in the game 5 when everyone's not like looking for surge, but when like there's 58 players alive, and in more stacked lobbies we would be maybe 200 surge above, and there would be another 10 players alive on top of this, so there'd be 67 people alive, and that's a lot of people that need to die to get on the 50 for the surge mark. So realistically, like, you really don't want to peek at all and show yourself if you already have surge. And so yeah, we kind of just sit here. We end up getting half and half. Very, very lucky, fortunate. And then we kind of make this edit here just to make sure we can get moving surge, because like, even though, so the thing about half surge is like, if you get half, you've got to be looking for tags the whole way through half and half if you can. You'll see here in a sec that I end up getting a 66 tag, but basically, like, you're gonna need moving surge most always in these stacked lobbies. Like, 20 people have to die in order for you to have no surge in this zone, or in first moving. So you got to be very, very cautious of that. And so we're kind of just playing for pump angle since we knew these guys were fighting below us. So kind of just chilling here in the base, just vibing out. Game one, very stacked. And yeah, I'm looking for surge to see if I can hold anybody in. Obviously, I don't want to peek too long here. The thing with peeking and moving zones, or in half and half for surge, is you don't want to make sure that you're peeking when zone's moving. I feel like that's a pretty obvious thing to know, but I mean, it might not be for some people. But if you peek too early, you have a high chance of getting sniped, and then they could rift or shockwave on you and end up fighting you and trying to kill you. So that surge tag was pretty huge, to be honest. I mean, even though if the game was more stacked later on, then it wouldn't have been, but I think we were pretty chill above surge going into moving zones. So 16 seconds here, and we end up getting a pretty close pull here. It's honestly this game, if this game was better, we would have probably pulled a top 5 or higher. And I made a very bad mistake here. And I'll go ahead and show you guys here in a sec. So basically, we're waiting to rift. We have our loadout right now is obviously, look at my heals. I'm very stacked on heals. My mats are 333, which in a first game, you look at your mats and if you have 350 of each mat going into first moving and on first game, that's extremely stacked. And so my loot is insane. We can basically shockwave every single zone and rift and all of that. So very stacked. Unfortunate game, to be honest. It made a very bad mistake here. But to be fair, we were more so learning the meta a bit, especially in duos. This is like the second time I've played a duo tournament in this. So we rift, see we're 153 above, and we're kind of gliding through the sky. One thing that I would want to mention real quick is that when you do rift, I don't know how to explain this, but I'm more of like a nitpicky player. Like I feel like I want to make sure all the very small mistakes are kind of ironed out, and that, like, you know, basically like you're making the best move at the right times, and it's the most efficient way to do everything. And that's kind of just my play style. So here, you know, as you can see, we squeeze against the box to make sure we rift on the very last second here. And then one thing that I don't think I did this game, oh, I did kind of do this game. Okay, so one thing I did this game that I told Blake about, and that happened to us in semifinals, is if when you rift, basically you're going to be caught in gliding, and you're probably going to hold W because the zone's on your back, right? Well, here's one thing that you can do to help fix that. So one, the storm edge, as you can see, I'm in storm technically by the text you see the below. Like I'm technically in the zone, but it's not ticking, and that's normal, and that's how the mechanic works of storm. So I mean, you can abuse that in any moment of the game, but more importantly, I'm not holding W right away, and I'm just letting my character kind of float down, and that makes it so that way, like, if I do end up holding W, I don't sink too far down, and it'll pull my glide time to a less time. So basically, by not holding W and by just letting you get up into the sky first and then pulling spacebar to pull your glider, then you have more time, basically. And then a big thing here with just staying above height is, as you can see, he's just not looking for height in the back of zone. Yeah, he's just not looking for it, so you got to kind of be careful. And then as soon as zone uncovers, it's a good time to dive down. And the mistake I made here, I'll go back and I'll play the audio here, but let me explain this. So basically, zone's uncovering and we're diving. Most typically, I've been the person to mark the zone where we want to go. And the mistake that I made here was to land on top of a center zone position box in zone. The mistake that I made obviously was to land here, and the counter to that is very simple. You land further back, so you can see this wood cone here. I wish I had like a drawing tool, but land on this wood cone instead, or land on this brick up here and then tarp in. You'll end up burning an extra 100 mats, which you probably already would have burned regardless, and you're already in zone here. So you'll see here what happens. This is game one here. So we land, I box out, and yeah, I kind of die. So that was that. One thing that I do want to mention, obviously I'm not trying to rat on Blake, but I think that it'd be good for a team to watch this, you know, say like some up and coming team that wants to learn how to play the meta really easily. Basically, since this has been a thing, and since rifts has been a thing for a while now, back in the old season and stuff, it's still a very common thing. And I'd say the only reason why I made this mistake is because it's been so long since we've played with rifts. But I guess going back to like the old days, right? Normally I would be the one following, because I was playing with Elevate, right? He would be leading, and I guess so. This is kind of a new role in a sense, and like I said, the time that's been, so that's been that. But if you listen to Blake's comms, there definitely could have been a lot better comms out of the teammate, out of Blake. So, you know, if you're watching this and you're having this mistake too, where you're dying on your first moving riffs, which is very bad, maybe look into your teammates' comms and see if you can do anything better. I can show the replay system here, but basically Blake had a pretty good while to see if it was a very sketch spot, and you'll see his comms were very monotone and not like very alerting. And he's not the type of player to like give to not give alerting calls. If he knows he needs to do something, or you need to come and you need to do something, then he'll scream it and he'll yell it. And most players are like that. I guess you kind of have to figure out your own teammate, but if your teammate is the type of player to be very monotone and slow, then I don't know. But I'll play this out without talking, and I'll turn the volume up so you guys can hear the comms. But if the comms are a little bit better here, then I definitely could have survived. So I'll play it out.
Yeah, no, yeah, we good. Okay, Mark.
So I calmed the metal, marked the metal, and then
Careful.
his comms were careful.
Dude, I can't. Use the drop. Use the drop. Can you use me?
And like I said, I can show the replay real quick. I'll actually launch the game since like Marshall's gonna be editing this. So I thought that this player right here to my right was Blake. Like I thought that was Blake to my side. So that's why I'm like trying to push this guy's wall.
I can't. Use the drop.
I thought that was him. Because most typically he does land there. Let me launch my game real quick and show you guys. But basically, like if Blake gave comes, like yeah, I'll show you guys in game. So real quick here, you'll see I mark. You'll see this is my glide pulls, and I'll even show you when I land. Okay, so I land at 0.07 seconds. Right. Let me go ahead and show this real quick. I'll show Blake's perspective, just so you guys can kind of see where we kind of went wrong in game one and how we could have improved. So here I'll show you guys. Let me fast forward here. Oops. So yeah, 0.7 seconds. All right, so here I am landing at a spot, and Blake's comms were careful, and then yeah, you can clearly see that Blake had enough time to comm that the players landing on us. And as you can see, Blake tried getting into his box just to try to like land with me, but still at 5 seconds here, I'll play it out. Careful. He misses the box right here.
Dude, I can't.
And then he says that he can't, and that's not really the greatest comms, to be honest. Obviously better comms would have been like, you know, I'm not in your box, I'm not in your box, and you need to get out, you need to get out, blah blah blah. So that was a big fault game one, but yeah, Blake ends up landing by himself down here. Box is up, I'm dead. Really unfortunate way to die game one. Yeah, I mean, on to the rest of this game. Blake clutched a couple points, and I think a kill point here. I'm not really sure if there's enough to show here or much to show, but one thing that I want to mention on real quick is that when you are tarping in game, try to look for layers that you can break through. So obviously you can see the zones going straight to his east, and you just want to make sure that you are trying to see if you can get through any old builds if possible. So if zone does pull, which I think it does, it pulls straight to his right here. You can see already that he has a bunch of old builds to go through. You see all these old builds right in front of him. So that's huge. Also, this is just me. Like I said, I'm just gonna be kind of like walking through my player analysis and like what I think situations. I think that's a huge waste of mats to be like tarping like this when you have 300 builds. Should definitely not be tarping and editing through walls. I see a lot of like really low like tier players doing this and like fucking open tournaments and stuff. Like you just can't be tarping like this. That's just gonna that just burned 4 builds right there. So that's almost a whole box. But yeah, as you can see, zone keeps pulling, and I knew that there were old builds there. So basically, Blake could drop down here and play these old builds, if that makes sense. He does have 3 builds, so he's gonna end up playing floppers. Like you see this old metal right here, which is teams on top of. He could have played that, but definitely the player to play floppers. And so he ends up hugging as much storm as he can. He gets a kill right here, and then yeah, he just doesn't get the loot because that guy's on it, and he's just forced to play floppers. Yeah, that was that was game one. One thing here, flopper just didn't pop, but there really wasn't a mistake here, to be completely honest. He shouldn't have been put in this position to begin with. If Blake wasn't put into the position to have to play floppers like this early, then you know it's definitely like a fault of mine dying so early. But that was our game one. So I mean, basically things to note from game one was rifting, first moving, land at a back spot on zone. So don't land so contested. You don't have to when you've already saved like over 500 mats in first moving. So yeah, land more uncontested side, don't land so center. And then also, if you're not the person picking the landing spot and you're the person following your teammate, make sure you're giving the right comms. And also, I mean, after this game, after this pretty crucial mistake, we had other rifts, and I think you might see here of us rifting and us kind of showing, we kind of changed up our play style so we could avoid dying like that, because that's definitely a really annoying way to die. So you'll see here as our games go on, our improvement while using rift fish. So that's basically it. Just, yeah, don't land so centered, and try to give good comms if you're not the person picking the spot. So